Well, good evening and welcome to this month's edition of The Edge. As always, I'm Trevor Lewington, your host. Thanks so much for joining me. As you know, on the third Thursday of every month, I'm talking to community and business leaders from across Southern Alberta. These are folks that are having a real impact, who are sharing their insights to perhaps grow your business, grow your community, or perhaps help you build your life. And whether you came to us through Roku TV or Fire TV, the website, YouTube, look, we don't really care how you got here. We're just really glad you came to spend some time with us tonight. And tonight, I'm very excited to be able to turn the microphone around on someone who's interviewed me a number of times over the last number of years. Hal Roberts, welcome, the Western Canada Bureau Chief for the News Forum. Did I get that right?
That's correct. Very good.
It's quite the handle.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, thanks so much for spending some time. I'm looking forward to finally getting to ask you some questions.
Sure, I'm looking forward to sitting on the side of the mic for a change, you bet.
Perfect. Now, you are a familiar face on the evening news in Southern Alberta. You were the news director and anchor for Bridge City News for the last 8 years or so?
Yeah, 8 years, that's right. Yeah, it was quite an adventure and quite an experience and a real honor as well serving the viewers here in Southern Alberta. I was working in Hamilton, Ontario at the time, hosting and producing a business show called We Mean Business on CH. And then Jeff Thiessen reached out to us at that time. He was the GM at the Miracle Channel. Says, Hal, what do you think about coming back home to Alberta and launching a 1-hour national newscast that you can lead our team and anchor the show, be our news director? And I thought, well, that's kind of a nice idea. I mean, I'll miss the waterfalls and the Niagara Escarpment and going to see the Blue Jays, but coming back home to Alberta, I couldn't resist and couldn't turn that down. So.
Now, you had an opportunity in China at the same time that you turned down to come back to Lethbridge. Can you talk about how that decision-making process happened?
So my background is a political journalist and a business journalist, and I actually applied for a position in Beijing with the China Global Television Network. And the Communist Party of China interviewed me, and the executive producers as well, and they liked what they saw. They checked out my references, and they offered me a prime anchor position in Beijing as a business journalist. So I went home to my family and I said, okay, so I got this opportunity, Lethbridge, Beijing, Lethbridge, Beijing. What do you think? So we chose Lethbridge. We came back home to Alberta.
A little safer, a little more predictable, maybe less adventurous, but I think that's probably the right call.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, it would have been a cool adventure seeing the Great Wall of China and man, do I love Cantonese chow mein. Oh man, it could have been right up.
Could have been every day.
Every day, I love it, you know, so. Yeah.
Nice. So, I mean, you came to Lethbridge, you helped create Bridge City News and started the format. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to build a team, build a newscast from essentially nothing?
You know, you're only as good as the team that you hire. And I was very fortunate to be part of a management team that hired some great journalists who were passionate and they really cared about local news, what's going on in our community, whether it's covering politics or business, or just some of the big events that happen in and around Southern Alberta. It was a real honor. And then just putting that show together every day, it was an hour-long newscast.
That's a lot of time to fill. Right?
Yeah, so it wasn't just local news, but we had provincial stories, national, international stories, and 2 15-minute interviews every day to round out the 1-hour newscast. And it's something that we're doing very similar now with the News Forum, where I'm working as the Western Canada Bureau Chief.
So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that. What is the News Forum and what does the role entail?
Yeah, so the News Forum was founded by Taurus Stoutland, and a wonderful man. He's our CEO, and he wanted basically to launch a news program where all voices matter.
Okay.
So it's not just the left, not just the right, it's everybody. All voices matter, and we wanted to produce old school journalism where you're just telling the story. We're not pushing an agenda, an ideology.
It's just, here's the story.
Here's
what's happening.
And here's what everybody has to say about it. You decide who you want to believe. So it's old school journalism, and I was excited to be part of that, bringing a lot of the Western Canadian stories to the News Forum. Now, it's based in Ontario, and sometimes they fly me back there to help anchor the show. But here in Southern Alberta, I'm doing a lot of work as a video journalist, long and short form hosting and interviewing.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun.
And so, I mean, Western Canada is a really big chunk of real estate.
Yeah.
Do you have other people that support you, or is it literally Hal's on the road? He's got his cell phone. He's got his camera. Right? Go do.
Yeah. Well, so far I've been covering most of these stories here in Southern Alberta, but I do have contacts in BC, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba that we reach out to focus on some of the bigger stories in those regions too, in the prairies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's been a shift in journalism of late, and there's a lot of criticism that it's corporate news, so it follows an agenda, or it's manufactured for a bunch of sponsors. And I don't know, you've had a long, illustrious career in journalism. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in sort of that shift over time?
Yeah, you know, and that's again why I'm really appreciative of being part of the News Forum, because we can just go cover stories that we feel really matter to Canadians and are impactful to Canadians' lives. How will this impact me? Why should I care about this as a viewer? And I'm very appreciative that we can cover a lot of those stories without having our wrists, I guess, chained or we're not handcuffed at all with what we can cover. And I think that's such a blessing that we have that freedom to go cover a lot of the big stories.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of the outlets here in town, sort of the big names that everyone would be familiar with, and the staffing reductions that have happened.
It's sad.
Like, there's very few people left, actual humans left to cover news.
Yeah.
Right?
I used to work at Global TV in Calgary as a business journalist, and a lot of my former coworkers are all gone. Golden handshake, or they, retired as well. But you're right, there've been a lot of layoffs on Bell, Global, CBC. It's quite sad. The industry's changed a lot.
Now, can you talk a little bit about your earlier career? I mean, we had a lot of students that watch. I mean, how did you get started in the news? What, was this always something you woke up one day, I'm like, this is my calling, or was it more of an evolution?
What's funny is, thank you. That's a really good question, Trevor. I actually wanted to be a TSN sports anchor.
Okay.
Because I'm very passionate about sports. Football, I played football. I was an offensive tight end in high school. I didn't get a scholarship, unfortunately, for college. But football, baseball, hockey, basketball, I love it all, right? But unfortunately, at that time, they weren't hiring a lot of guys. It was more the ladies. It was great opportunities for the ladies to get in, and they had way too many guys. So it's like, well, maybe I should try news. I'll pay my dues in news, right? And then I developed a real passion for politics when I went to go work at the Sun News Network in Ottawa on Parliament Hill. And that was such an honor and a blessing, every day being at center block, going to QP question period, interviewing then Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Justin Trudeau in the scrums, Tom Mulcair, who was the NDP leader, all the high-profile Tory ministers, presidents and prime ministers when they came to town. I'd get a chance to interview them. I'm like, this is really cool.
Like these are real people that I can touch, right?
It was such an honor, right? And then unfortunately, the Sun News Network went under at that time, and then I had an opportunity to work on BNN and Bloomberg as a business journalist, interviewing Canada's top CEOs. And we shot in Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. So they flew us all over the place, our crew, our very small crew. But it was such an honor. And that's where I developed a real passion for business news and politics.
Okay. And I mean, you talked a little bit about the news forum being a place of objective truth, to no agenda.
Right.
But what is the role of news in Canadians' lives? Because I think a lot of people are maybe questioning whether this is the right source of information. They're looking to the internet. Like, does news still have a role to play?
Absolutely. Inform, educate, and I think you need to entertain as well. Because you don't want somebody who is boring and dry and delivering the news. You want to have a little bit of personality.
Well, he does that.
A little bit of personality. Like when you're interviewing somebody, talking to them, let your personality shine and come through. That's what I tell a lot of students that I'm mentoring, and inform and educate and learn as much about this industry as you can. Just be a sponge and soak it all in and do as much as you can. Become a prolific writer.
Right.
An anchor, a reporter, a director, a producer. That way, when the hammer does come down to be laid off, they're going to say, you know what, Trevor, you know a lot about this industry. You're very versatile. I'm not going to let you go, but I'm going to let this other person go because all they know how to do is be a writer or a reporter. They're not very strong as an anchor, as a producer. So be as versatile and as valuable as you can to your team. Then you'll be one of the last ones to be let go.
And I guess that's in some ways a blessing of the design today, because there are so few people in the newsroom. You are a videographer, a producer, a journal.
You do it all.
You have to learn all the things.
And you do windows and toilets if you have to.
If you do, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But you know what? At the same time, I think it makes you a more well-rounded journalist, and you appreciate the industry that much more as well when you have all of these cool experiences and get to do so much.
So what other advice would you give to students? I mean, it's about learning the role, being indispensable. But I mean, what other sort of lessons have you taken away from your career that you would pass on?
Follow your heart. Follow your heart. What you're most passionate about, because you're going to regret it years later. Now that I'm in the twilight of my career, I'm thinking to myself, should I have done sports? But I actually had an opportunity at CKIQ in Kelowna to be a sports announcer, but that was in radio. But just follow your heart and never give up. And if you have a news director or an executive producer say, you shouldn't even be in this industry. You're not talented. You don't have what it takes. If it's in your gut and it's in your heart, ignore what that person says and you plow through and you go right ahead. And if you're not appreciated there, then go elsewhere.
Yeah, there's lots of other opportunities.
There are other opportunities, you bet. And it might be in print. Maybe you go work at a newspaper, local newspaper, to cut your teeth and cover some of the local stories there, including council. It's a wonderful opportunity. I mean, I remember covering, I'd be on the air in radio. This is in Kelowna and Vernon many years ago. and I'd work a 10-hour to 12-hour shift, and then at night I'd have to go cover council at Coldstream and the North Okanagan Regional District in Vernon and the Central Okanagan Regional District Council in Kelowna. And those were like 16, 18-hour days. But you know what? I was so excited to do it.
You're like, whatever, I'll just give it to me.
You know, and you're like a sponge. You learn so much. I learned a lot about politics at an early age, and it was just a real exciting time.
As a recovering municipal politician myself, I can't imagine working all day to then cover and attend council meetings for fun.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Well, it was good. You know, you look for the nuggets in council meetings because you're right, it can be kind of dry at times.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to talk about pig farms and expanding that, but let's talk about some nuggets that you might pull out of a council meeting, right? So. Yeah.
Well, and interesting, there's a thread there that you started covering local politics early in your career, and then you end up at Centre Block on Parliament Hill, talking to the top leaders of the country. Like that's the evolution of that, right?
It is. But you know what? It's funny. One of my really exciting first interviews I ever did was then Premier Don Getty. I was working at CJXX Radio in Grand Prairie, and a bunch of us cub reporters were gathering around. He was talking to us outside, and we asked him some questions. And I was asking him a question specifically about the budget, and he didn't answer the question. He skirted around the issue.
As a politician might be inclined to do.
Exactly. So I rephrased the question. I hit it to him again. I hit him with the same question, right? And again, he skirted around the issue. So a third time, I rephrased the question. I asked him again about the budget. He looked me straight in the eyes. He says, "Son, you're not going anywhere, are you?" I said, "No, sir, I'm not." He says, "Good for you." And then he answered my question, gave me the numbers I needed. Then he grabbed my hand with his big mitts. He played for the Edmonton Eskimos.
He was a football player.
And he shook my hand. I saw that big Grey Cup ring, and I'm like, wow, thank you, Mr. Getty, right? And I'll never forget that. It was my first big interview, you know, and this is back in the late 80s. Then I picked up my, I guess it was like a big brick cell phone, you know, those big ones, and I called my buddy from the Jeep.
Hey, you'll never guess.
I just interviewed the Premier. So, yeah. It was a cool time, exciting time.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Now, you've also had some special appearances in some films. So what were they, and how did you get there? Because that seems like a sort of a random occurrence too.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, you know what? When you work as a journalist, especially in some of the bigger markets, and I really pray you guys get the opportunities to do that if you're going to follow into the footsteps of being a journalist. But if you work in the GTA in the Greater Toronto Area, you do get some opportunities. And I think the biggest one was when I landed a role in the movie Arrival, which made over $250 million at the box office with Jeremy Renner, Amy Adams, Forrest Whitaker. And I played the role of an anchor. So my buddy said, "Oh, you got a role as an extra on set?" I said, "No, it's a principal role, on camera speaking." They're like, "What?" And I got to meet Denis Villeneuve, who's an award-winning director from Montreal. We shot my scene in Old Montreal from 8 to 8:15 in the morning. And then after meeting him, he's such a humble, down-to-earth man. It was such a pleasure meeting him. And then he says, "Hal, I have to leave." I said, "Where are you going?" "I have to go to Istanbul, Turkey to shoot the new Blade Runner with Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling."
You know, no big whoop.
I got to go to the airport, right? So I got to get out of here. I'm like, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Villeneuve. That's really cool," you know? So
amazing.
That was a really neat experience. It was, yeah.
So how did you land that? I mean, you know...
Well, I had an agent in Toronto.
Oh, okay, so someone was actually looking for those kind of opportunities?
Yeah, I had an agent. But I mean, I'm not an actor. I'm a journalist, right? So she only submitted me for roles where they're looking for actual anchors or reporters. In the movie Arrival, if you watch that movie, every journalist you see in there is an actual journalist, whether they're at CTV, Global, CBC, or me at the time. You know, I was with CH on that business show. We Mean Business. So, yeah, we're not actors. Well, at least I'm not, right? I'm a journalist. I like to write in my own words, not say somebody else's words.
So, I mean, you obviously must watch yourself on broadcasts all the time, but it must have been a little bit different to see yourself on the big screen in a feature like that with such marquee banner names.
That was, at the time, I didn't know it was going to be a big film. It was nominated for a few Academy Awards. It won one for sound editing, I believe. Okay. But I tried to go see the movie Arrival at the Toronto International Film Festival, and I couldn't get in because it was sold out. And I'm like, well, what if you're in the movie? They're like, it doesn't matter. Sorry. Thanks for playing. Next. I'm like, okay. So I waited for it to come out on the big screen, like you said, at Cineplex Odeon Theater, Cineplex. So I took my family, and then I asked the ticket taker, nice young lady at the time, I said, how's the movie doing? She says, well, you know what? It's been here the first week. It's sold out every night. It's very popular. I said, well, that's pretty cool. And then my son says, well, you know why he's asking, right? Because he's in the movie. And she's like, yeah, right, whatever.
Whatever.
Okay. So, Yeah, there's actually an article. CBC did an article on me at the time, and I shared that story as well. CBC Hamilton. It was a pretty cool experience, especially meeting Denis Villeneuve. He's legendary. Amazing Canadian director.
And one moment, you feel like he's meeting with you, he's hanging out with you, you're shooting your scene, and then, like you said, flying off to Turkey to hang out with some A-listers.
Yeah, I'm more like a Z-lister.
Yeah, well, I'm a notch below that, so I don't know what that is. AA and Excel or something.
AA meetings. That's something different, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a whole different problem.
Okay.
So, I mean, in your career journey, I'm sure you've had mentors along the way, but has there been someone who's sort of really been impactful, and what were some of the key lessons you got from them?
Trevor, I really appreciated people who were just being themselves, strong, authoritative, knowledgeable as good journalists. I really liked Peter Mansbridge with the CBC many years ago, because he could just carry on a conversation with the viewers like you and I are doing right now. He wasn't trying to be Mr. Announcer, right? He wasn't
following a rote script.
No,
it was
right?
just
script, right? Like Ron Burgundy. It's like, no, he was just being himself. And Linda Olson, who I worked with at Global in Calgary, she was an amazing anchor and a wonderful woman, an incredible journalist. I appreciated her. Leslie Roberts as well with Global. He was with Global in Toronto for many years. No relation, by the way. He's a wonderful human being, and just a lot of those people they're just being themselves, and they really care about their community, and they care about the stories that they're producing. You can tell. You can't fake that kind of sincerity and, just from the heart.
Yeah, the people that are in the industry for a long time have to be to survive, I would imagine.
Yeah. One of my early mentors was actually Daryl Jans at CTV in Calgary.
Okay.
And he took me out for dinner once at the old Highlander Hotel at 16th Avenue in Calgary many years ago. And I'll never forget the advice he gave me. He says, Hal, if you're going into this industry for money, you're going into the wrong industry. He says, you have to go into it with a passion for news and to tell the truth and to inform viewers and to make a difference in your community. That's why you go into news. And I'll never forget that. He shared that with me many years ago. And sadly, we lost Daryl not that long ago, but he was an incredible human being and a wonderful journalist.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I mean, you've obviously had a fairly diversified career for lots of different opportunities. Are there projects you look back on that you go, that was me, that you're most proud of? Like that was just such a big deal.
One thing I really, really appreciated was covering the Ottawa terrorist attack back in 2014 for the Sun News Network. Sadly, when Zahef Bibo crossed into, I think he came from Montreal, crossed into Ottawa and shot Hamilton Argyle, Nathan Cirillo twice in the back at the National War Memorial. Just a very sad day. It was terrible. It was cowardly. It was terrible. But I was there on location doing a live hit with Brian Lilly on his show, My Line, with my Dejero, broadcasting live, doing the hits. And beside me, there's Anderson Cooper from CNN and all these other reporters, NBC, CBS, ABC, like all the way down the line.
The whole world is right here.
Right there. And I'm with them reporting live at the National War Memorial. And then I covered the two funerals for Nathan Cirillo as well in Ottawa and back at his home city in Hamilton. But that was very surreal. I wouldn't say, were you really proud of that? For me, it was just really impactful for me in my heart. And it was an honor to be there to cover that event. And I was very, very happy to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the emotion. All Canadians were trying to process the events.
Yeah.
And yet you're trying to be objective and get the story out, right?
Yeah, no, very much so, yeah. Another fun interview I did actually was with Jerome McGinley, who's now retired from the NHL. And I interviewed him in his rookie campaign, and he was just the most humble, down-to-earth guy in the world. He used a lot of yes, sir, no, sir. Thank you for your time, sir. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
I mean, this is a rock star, right?
Well, this is early in his career, and he didn't really deviate much from that. He was an incredible ambassador for the league, for the NHL, and just a humble, down-to-earth guy, Kind of like, I guess, what Keanu Reeves is like. I've never met Keanu, but I've heard
hear that. Yeah.
But you hear that all the time in Hollywood, right? Just a humble, down-to-earth guy. And I really appreciate people who are like that in the industry.
Conversely, and you don't have to name names, but what were some of the more challenging interviews or circumstances you had to deal with? Again, without getting into specifics, we'll protect the names of the innocent.
Well, some rock stars I've interviewed over the years. There were some big egos there that you had to kind of massage and try to maneuver and work through. Kind of like when Carney first met Trump, you know, and you have to massage the ego a little bit and work to get the best
It's a game.
conversation. It's a game you have to play, right?
Right.
And that's something early on in my career I didn't know much about, but I learned about it later on. And yeah, I think some of the rock stars that I interviewed, some politicians too. I remember on my first week at Centre Block in Parliament Hill, this one Toronto MP came up to me and bumps into me and he's like, "Hey, do you know who I am?" I'm like, "Excuse me? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you." He says, "You know who I am?" I'm like, I won't say his name. And he gave me his name and he says, "If you don't know who I am, Google me, all right? Figure it out." Then he walked away from me. I'm like,
wow.
okay, that was not very friendly. That wasn't very...
That was the antithesis of humble and down to earth. And like, do you know who
That was
I
kind
am?
of the opposite of that. I'm like, okay, dude. He didn't win the last election, so he's now retired, this Toronto MP, but not too impressed with that individual. But a person I was really impressed with was Julie Van Dusen from the CBC. My first week there, the politics behind the scenes in politics when you go cover Parliament Hill, right? Centre Block there. And I was in the scrum. Justin Trudeau, he was just the Liberal Party leader at that time. He wasn't Prime Minister yet. Came out to the scrum, 30, 35 reporters are all there. And I'm a big guy, I'm 6'4". I use my football skills and kind of...
You're going to get right into the front.
Right in the front, right? And so I start engaging with Justin Trudeau, asking him questions. But I didn't know that you're only allowed to ask one and then maybe a follow-up or segue question.
Because the press gallery has rules, right?
They are.
There are structured...
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of that. So I ended up asking him 7 questions. We're going back and forth having a conversation. I can hear the mumbling from the other reporters. Enough, stop, get out of there, right? And then Trudeau, after he finished answering my 7 questions, answered one from TV en français in French, and then he left. And the other reporters just, they scowled at me. And Julie says, "Come on over here, Hal, I got to talk to you about something." So I learned that day that one and maybe a follow-up question.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, and that's it for all political leaders. So I learned a valuable lesson, and I was very thankful that she took me under her wing a little bit and it taught me what goes on behind the scenes on Parliament Hill.
Yeah, because every workplace has its unwritten rules and cultural norms, and so I guess that's no exception.
I didn't know. I was engaged with the guy, and he was
he was having
charming.
a conversation.
We were having a good conversation together. He's answering all my questions. It was wonderful. I rolled with it. You have to roll with it.
You just got to go. Now, I mean, you've covered politicians, you've covered politics for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be an interesting polarization going on in the U.S., and to some extent we see that here. Again, does the news, does journalism play a role in that? Has journalism made it worse? Is there an opportunity for us to bring us back to sort of this middle point? I'm just interested in your thoughts on that.
Thank you. Thanks, Trevor. You know what I've noticed? Some reporters, they ask questions that are, you could tell there's an agenda behind the way they ask their question.
Yeah, there's just
it's not objective.
There's a little tilt even in the way it's asked, right?
Yeah. Well, even recently on a major newscast, one of the reporters was talking about, the genocide, Israel creating all this genocide. And like, wait a minute. You have to remain objective to this, but that's labeling it something. Whether it is genocide or not, that's not for us. It's not subjective. You have to remain objective, right?
Right.
So you have to be careful of you have to use neutral language, especially when you're doing a lot of your reports.
Because there does appear to be, I mean, the example that's always used is a Fox News or an OAN are clearly right of center, pro-Republican, and so in the U.S. we see a lot of that. You pick your news based on your party.
Sure.
Essentially.
Sometimes. But the news forum's not like that. We're very centrist, which is awesome.
Yeah, do you feel that Canada's gone the same way, or that we're seeing some of those same trends?
No comment.
Okay,
no,
fair
I'm
enough.
Kidding. No. I mean, when I worked at Global, it wasn't like that at all. I worked at CTV in Scarborough and Toronto as a chase producer. What's interesting? I got to share something with you. The VP at the time came up to me once. We met in the bathroom, of all places, and he says, "Hal, what are you doing here?" Well, I'm providing for my family. I'm working as a chase producer.
Where are you going with this, sir?
Yeah. He says, no, you should be on air. You should be a journalist on air, either reporting or anchoring. I said, well, that's wonderful. You want to hire me? He says, Hal, I'd hire you in a heartbeat, but you're the wrong skin color.
Oh, geez.
I'm like, wait, what? He says, I'd hire you in a heartbeat, but you're the wrong skin color. Good luck to you. I'm like, that was an eye-opener for me. And then he shared with me afterwards, we have to hire more people that properly reflect the cultural diversity of the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area.
And you're not it.
And at that time, I was not it. So that was hurtful. That was too bad, And yeah, it was just unfortunate at the time. But Yeah, I'll never forget when he shared that with me, and yeah, it was an eye opener for me.
I mean, we've certainly seen a big shift in sort of the diversity across the screen on all channels. I think, the news is very much reflective of the community now.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's taken time for that to happen.
Yeah. At the same time, I think, news organizations should hire the best people for the job. Red, yellow, black, and white, it doesn't matter. It's just like you
who's qualified?
Who's the most qualified? Who's going to work the hardest, bring the news to the viewers in a factual, non-biased way. And, if we can get more diversity, I think that's awesome. I think it's great.
But
if you're just hiring somebody based on their skin color or their sex or whatever, I think that's wrong. I really do,
Yeah, it must have been shocking at the time to sort of be face to face with sorry, your career opportunities are limited simply because of who you are.
Yeah, it was an eye opener for me at that time, and but you know what? He was just being brutally honest with me, and I appreciated that honesty.
Wow. Now, I mean, social media has done things to amplify news, but also replace news. So, I mean, how have you seen social media benefit journalism, and perhaps where do you see the future of these technologies going?
That's a very good question. I think a lot of people use social media for their news sources, but try not to use Facebook. Although right now, because of Zuckerberg and the Canadian government, you can't even post Canadian content. Meta won't allow it anyway.
Now we are broadcasting live on Facebook, so
there you go. Well,
you can use us.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, as a news organization, we can't post any news stories, any news content right now on Meta because the government says you have to pay Canadians for that content. And I just liked it the way it was before. We provided the content, they provided the platform. It was win-win for everybody.
And now there's this real.
But then the federal government got involved, said, "No, you got to pay news organizations for this." And then Zuckerberg said, "Okay, forget that. I'm out." So I'm like, no. So yeah, they kind of messed that up. I think the federal government, but no, it's for social media. I think a lot of people still go to X. They go to Insta. I mean, they tap into social media. So it's vital if we're covering a story. Let's say there's a hostage taking or a shooting. It's important to get it out the right away. Post it to X, formerly Twitter. Tweet about it. Get it out the right away, and then you'll watch it later in the newscast during the supper hour news, right?
Right.
But you have to get it out there as soon as you can. But make sure it's correct information. It's not erroneous. Because some people like to tweet it out there, get the information out, and then it's wrong. They have to do a retraction. And I always tell our reporters, it's terrible. So make sure you're factually correct as much as you can. And when in doubt, leave it out. Leave out the information. But then just blast it out there as long as you get the right information out.
So do you think, is social media going to continue to cannibalize sort of the traditional broadcast news, or is it simply a megaphone and a platform to bring people to the main source?
I think it has its own voice right now, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of commercial television stations struggling because of the online influence and a lot of people doing online advertising as opposed to traditional TV advertising. So I think one supplement or complements the other. So I don't think we should shun social media. I think we should embrace it because, like I said, a lot of people are going there for their news sources.
Okay. Thank you for that. We'll shift gears a little bit to focus more back on you and your time here in Southern Alberta, since I'm an economic developer at heart and promoting our region is what I do. Can you talk a little bit about your time here in Lethbridge, about 8 years, if I remember right?
Yeah, 8 years.
What has stood out to you from your experiences here? I mean, you had the chance to go to Beijing, but no Great Wall. You're here with the Great Coulees instead. So
Waterton, Trevor, Waterton Lakes National Park. I take my family there every second weekend. Do some hiking, go to the Bears Hump, go to Red Rock Canyon. It's just so beautiful.
It's such a crown jewel, right?
Oh, it is. It's like Banff without the commercialism, right?
Very true.
So I love Waterton. And yeah, I love the friendliness of Lethbridge. We're very diverse here in Lethbridge, which I think is pretty cool. And it's such a beautiful, picturesque city with the parks and the river running through, the Old Man River. Like you said, the Coulees. It's going to be hard when we leave at the end of the month and move to Calgary. But Lethbridge will always have a special place in my heart.
Now, when you came here, Miracle Channel, of course, has their facility here. They're based here, I think, for the most part. Bridge City News broadcasts from here. Yep. But you were really serving a much broader audience. Was there ever any questions from the broader audience about, well, why Lethbridge? Where's Lethbridge? What about
Well, that's why when I was news director there, we tried to have a lot of provincial stories, big national stories. We'd interview. I've actually interviewed Pierre Polyev on Bridge City News. If you go on YouTube, you can see that, the interview I did with him. I think it's up to around 850,000 views now, and
Little old Lethbridge newscast.
yeah,
like
and
almost
interviewing Pierre Poilievre, so that was kind of cool.
That's very cool.
And interviewing Premier Daniel Smith as well, on Bridge City News, and that has also had, I think, 400,000 or 500,000 views. So, yeah, it's wonderful. Even though I joke with people, it's like putting CTV National News or CNN in Lethbridge. That's because it's a national newscast, just like the News Forum, which is in Southern Ontario in St. Catharines. It's a national newscast, but you put great product together and great content. It doesn't matter where you are, whether it's Lethbridge, St. Catharines. As long as you have that wonderful content that people can appreciate and respect what you bring to the table, I don't think people really care.
Yeah, fair enough. And so now you're relocating to Calgary, and is that simply because it's easier to access the things you need to do in this role?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as the Western Canada Bureau Chief, I have to be closer to a lot of the newsmakers and Premier Daniel Smith and the head Nenshi, and they usually go to Calgary, Edmonton, not so much Lethbridge, right? So
we are a little further away.
A little further. If it was Red Deer, maybe in the middle, I could catch them in between, right?
Yeah.
But Lethbridge, we're a little out of the way here, so. Yeah, and we're going to be opening up a studio soon in Calgary, and we do some shooting as well at the prestigious Petroleum Club in downtown Calgary. That's where I interviewed Preston Manning recently.
Right, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and a wonderful man, 83 years young, and he's got all of his wits about him. He has incredible stories to share, and such an intelligent man. I pray that I'm, half that sharp when I'm that age, at age 83, So
yeah, I got a little bit of runway left, and I'm not quite as sharp as that, so there's hope for me yet.
Yeah.
No, amazing. Okay. This show's called The Edge. And so one of the questions I always ask folks is balancing a busy career, family, all of the obligations you have. What keeps you grounded? How do you keep your edge?
You know what? I think my faith is a big part of it. God has given me so much peace over the years, Trevor. When I'd be stressed out about a certain situation, I'd say, you know what? I let go and let God. I just give it up to him. And then my family too. My family keeps me really grounded. Like I'll come home when my kids were little, they'd spit up on me. I'm like, oh, you think you're something special? Hey, here you go. Or I'm changing my son's diaper and the fountain of youth will spring up on me. I'm like,
There is nothing more humbling than that, right?
So that kept me humble. So I think my faith in my family and grounded too. I love getting close to nature, going on hikes and swimming in the lakes, our beautiful lakes that we're blessed with in this country. And I had a chance to swim in Meech Lake.
Really?
The famous Meech Lake Accord.
Wow,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of a cool experience when I was in Ottawa there. And so I think just my faith and family has really kept me grounded over the years.
Well, those are two solid anchors we can all build from, I think.
Good pun there with the anchor, yeah.
Well, you got to do it again. Any final thoughts you want to share with the audience tonight about anything we've talked about, or anything you want to leave an impression with our audience?
Enjoy every moment in your career, whether it's a journalist, politician, a student painter, whatever. Just breathe it in. Maybe not too much paint views, but just breathe in every experience, because before you know it, you're going to be in the twilight of your career like I am. And then you look back like, where did the last 35 years go? Like what happened? But then you look back at the incredible experiences that you've enjoyed along the way, but just breathe it in and enjoy as much as you can. And don't get too stressed out about it.
I think that is great advice. I want to thank you for joining me tonight and sharing a little bit more of your story, and we wish you the best of luck as you continue to build the News Forum.
Thanks so much, Trevor. Appreciate it.
So Hal Roberts, Western Canadian Director of the News Forum, he's our guest this month. We'll see you next month with another great leader from Southern Alberta talking about how to build your community, build your life, or build your business. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah, now we're going to... Salute.